Good evening, everybody, again, and welcome to my channel. I'm doing a very quick video. I don't have everything set up the way I want to um, for this video, and it's just as important as any other video that I make. As I was setting everything up, I thought to myself how many times I felt nervous when I started making this video about a year ago. I started doing these. Probably just I remember thinking I was just tapping on my knees or just feeling very uncomfortable. But I felt this feeling that I needed to get this done, that I needed to get these things out, and I'm getting them out now. I'm also just going with whatever feels right, and there's a lot of things I want to say, and I don't feel the timing is right. And even back then, there were some videos that I thought that you guys might have not been ready to know about, certain things that I wanted to express that I didn't think you guys would appreciate at the time or understand the gravity of the situation. So it led me to just hang back, and now again I'm having this urge, this just kind of a nudge to say these things again because it's important. So, all right. So I did write a few things, and I didn't forget about the Ashar command. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. I'm hoping that maybe I can receive some of their energies, and they might want to say something to you, or in generally speak about the whole situation because it's important that we get these things. It's important that we get these things going and that we understand how we're going to evolve all of us together, right? This is important. Okay, so I'm going to put the Asher command off to the side, and I'm going to add a few things as I go. So I've created some images that I think are important. Here it is. So your intuition and your consciousness and your understanding of there being things out there energetically that we can't see, we can't tell, but we have a sense of them being there, right? Um, like that example that I told you, I think in a couple of videos ago, where I wanted to have drink coffee, and someone just brought coffee over, and we made some in a pot, in a coffee pot. Um, so generally, I think that most of the unaware, the ones that are inconsiderate or don't understand the inner workings of an advanced society or advanced individuals living on Earth, would say that they're pretty much in this kind of scenario where, and the next couple of slides are going to show you what I mean, but they're like this. Just visualize this for a second and think about what I'm going to say next. Okay, so you want to think of yourself as having a lot of information, right? And then you want to think of also having useless information that doesn't really make any sense to know about. uh, and I'm speaking in layers here because information that doesn't matter, information that you have and that you don't need and it's useless, it occupies a part of you, right? That could be used for something else. You're just taking up this space, this energetic space, where you're limiting yourself mostly. You're creating this barrier around you. You're limiting yourself to a scenario, and you live within those rules of that scenario of your whole being. Some souls are, highly advanced, and they're creator beings, right? So when when they incarnate in a planet like Earth, right, and then they start living an earthly life, they don't they grow up within a family structure that gives them the best opportunity to escape that and to fulfill their mission in this world, whatever that may be. And you can get pretty much stuck in that scenario where you think you know a little more, there might be more about you, but you're just not really taking it all in because for whatever one reason or another, the indoctrination, it took over. Look at this guy right here. Look at this guy. He doesn't stay still. All right, so this is the first slide. Then we have this second slide. Making sure I get the right one. So compared to the first slide, or at least my illustration, it's not a letter T. It's more like a visualization thing. Then a person that might be a little more cognizant will understand that there's just a little more to look to, right? Instead of just it being flat as if we were looking at it from top to bottom. If you were navigating these halls and you were standing here and you could walk this way, then you think there'd be a wall there, right? Your situation of understanding of certain things in let's say that in this world will they're going to be quite interesting to know that there's just a little more that you know about. Let's say maybe this person doesn't really know about this kind of individual that has a limited scope of what his life is like or what he thinks his life should be like, may not understand that you can do positive visualization so you can accomplish your goals and have certain scenarios in your life that could make it better. Maybe you'd hear about it, but you just wouldn't believe in it. Let's say that this person has a better understanding and could say to himself, well, I can positively visualize the things that I want, right? I'm not so easily misguided by others, right? There's not that sense of ignorance. You know a little bit more about what's good and what's bad, and then you can either be good or bad because you can in this type of planet. It's possible for you to experience a 3D world like this. Okay? So then we move on to an even more advanced human being, a more advanced individual would then see things like this, right? Where you say, well, that's not a wall. I can go this way or that way, right? And you have a higher understanding. You understand your choices and how they can, how the outcome of that can be relevant to your situation. Where you could have a reading, right? Let's say that I have a reading and my reading says, due to your family structure and your DNA and your ancestral heritage, you're going to live in this sort of scenario based on on these factors, and that could be true. And then maybe if you hear about something like that where someone can already predetermine what your future is going to be like based on certain scenarios. I'm talking about like psychics, and I'm talking about people that read your tarot card, or the stars alignment, or the day or the year you were born. It falls in all three categories of the illustrations that I show you, but everything has a level of understanding that's higher than the past level of understanding, right? One thing ties into the other, but if you limit yourself to just being in that one scenario, like scenario A, B, or C, as I just showed you, stop it. Stop. Scenario A, B, or C, as I showed you, right? Then you can say, oh, tarot cards, that's nonsense, that doesn't work, and this person might think, well, yeah, you know what, some of the things kind of came true and I understand it. While this person might say, okay, I understand the past two scenarios and I understand how this works and I understand the limits that it has and how much further it can and how much further things can go with this. And how much more you can achieve and how things work out in these scenarios here, right? Like you have just more understanding. Okay, so moving on. All right. So the universe moves in a spiral. Time is not linear. Time is more like a spiral. So for ever of you guys out there that were wondering, why is it that I can talk to my future self? Okay, and I hope this doesn't sound strange, but it shouldn't, because you're there. You can do this. You can. We're already there, right? So for those of you that can, if that can sound kind of strange, it's possible. So you're going to talk to your future self. Also, there's a lighting issue that I couldn't bother to try and fix right now. So that's something that I couldn't possibly do now, where I wouldn't be able to make this video in a couple of days. And I tried my best too. So I hope that you understand this. You're gonna have a conversation with your future self. Now, when it comes to timing about where this is gonna happen, it's not very. Yeah, I know the lighting sucks. Excuse me. I can't pinpoint that for you exactly when you're gonna have a conversation with your higher self. But you have to be open to that energy. For example, I can already feel the energy that you're going to have that conversation with your higher self or an aspect of your higher self, right? Um, so when it comes to that question that you're asking, I always wanted to give this example, and it's going to be a little extreme. But you've seen a Molotov cocktail, how that looks. It's a bottle with fluid that's flammable that has a handkerchief or a very long piece of thread, maybe like a piece of, a cover sheet or something, whatever that sticks out far out. And then you light it, throw it, and it does the effect that you're looking for at the intended target. But your essence and your energy are that part of the the device that's outside of itself, the one where you light on fire. And then when your energy is coming down into a vessel like a 3D vessel, then there's a lot less of you that is available at the time, and most of that part of you is out there, so to speak, right? It's like a funnel, right? Where then your essence is your physical body is more like this, but you just don't fit into this whole body all too much. So a lot of you is out there. Weird, right? It makes sense to me to say it that way. But then you connect with your higher self, which is the whole lot of you, which talks to this physical vessel that has a splinter size of how big and how great and grandeur you're out there. Um, yeah, I don't know about blue lights, but light. It's a light either way. I'll fix it. I want to move on to just saying, because I'm gonna split this videos. I'm gonna probably merge them all together. My cat wanted to come out, and I let him out, and he's making a mess of things. So this is why I'm splitting, or maybe I'll just put them all how I can together here. I'll figure it out. So these are the next illustrations. Because time isn't linear, this is my version of what a spiral should be like. Okay? Time isn't linear. So time kind of looks like this, right? And if you put it flat, it'll look like this, you know? And this point here would be further down, and then as it goes up, then you're moving this way towards me, right? You know what I mean. This is the shortest part, and then it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and then we're going in a forward direction, like that. We'll be going in a forward direction. So sometimes, if you think of me holding a spring, any kind of spring, if you compress the spring together, you can get some of the spirals to touch each other. at some point, and they can expand and they contract. Right now, we're in a point where we're contracting, and you can then have these kind of connections with your higher self or where any other individual that's a family member of yours is out there. Um, and at some points, you feel like you're just, really stretched out thin. It's possible that you're stretched thin. In the scenarios where you're probably closer to the springs or closer to the spirals, then you can have a conversation with your present self as the spring merges. You can have a conversation with your higher self, a higher version of you, specifically you, not your higher self. Specific, I'm not talking about your higher self that's outside of you, but I'm talking about a conversation with your future self, and you can have a conversation with your future self, because for whatever it's worth, all I keep hearing, and one thing that resonated the most when I've had conversations with the Pleiadians, is that time is not linear. So we're here now, but we're also in the future at the same time. So this energy that you feel is the coming together, that part that it's finally merging and converging at one point, at one singular point, in one singularity. You're merged. You're all one at the same time. And that's what the universe does. The universe expands and it contracts, and it expands and it contracts. And we're at a very low level where we can accommodate to have very physical things around us, and then time functions at this lower level in a different way. Like we have our avatar body somewhere sitting, waiting for our full consciousness to occupy that body. So I'm going to take a pause. You don't have to finish this next part of the video, but let's talk about the Ashtar command. So when they channeled, and I had a conversation with them, and I'm hoping they come in, but maybe not. The Ashtar command, they're a positive group. They're near the Pleiadian cluster, and so early on they got taken in by a group of grays, and the group of grays, I'll get to that. The group of grays took them under the wing, made promises, tried to help them out as best as they can. Then they started to alter their DNA to help them out. They were just really wanting them to be helped, and they accepted their assistance in that way. They also very military wise. They conduct themselves, with a strong chain of command. Jeez. And these the chain of command is part of the structure, so they're very strict about that kind of thing. They really they really are kind of a very strict soldier class sort of thing, if you would like to know. So their deal was that they were almost genetically modified by these grays, and at some point they realized they were going through these processes of getting controlled, and then genetically modified in a way that they'd be probably servant to the grays in one way or another. And they managed to get out of that situation where they weren't able to go that far, and then a lot of them just immediately, you would know what I mean if you understand what I'm about to say. But they just they just turned into savages, meaning that they just really didn't trust a lot of other civilizations as much. They became, as a group of themselves, more they were tighter knit when they went through an experience like that, because they were all participant of this tragic event that almost turned out bad for them in that case. So they're very a very tight, close knit group, They're Pleiadians. They're Pleiadians in a way that you might not think of it. But when you do look at the Pleiades outside and you see seven stars, behind those seven stars there are tons of planet back there. You only get to see this. But then it mostly looks like this. We're looking at the seven stars now, but there's a whole set of other little planets and stars and things like that back there that we just can't see. But we only be able to see from Earth. From Earth, we can only see the seven sisters here, but there's a little more back there. So you can say that they're just small, another part of the constellation that we just can't see. But and you can just say that they're Pleiadians, but they're very everyone there in that section is very autonomous onto themselves. Um, yeah, okay. I like that color. It's a good color. Uh, I say that it doesn't always have to be that way necessarily, and because of the future scenarios and how things look, that's not relevant. Okay, so it's not going to be all completely bad. It isn't going to be all completely bad. There's going to be a tug of war, all right? And at some point, maybe there'll be a point break where you'll have to give in a little in order to get back some more. That's a hold on, sit tight. Yeah. So that's a personal issue. It's a family, personal issue. I can say as an example of what cognitive dissonance is. Cognitive dissonance is, um, I'm trying to not to give a very drastic example. That has to do with laws, right? And how we apply laws, right? So then one law or one scenario outperforms the other, and depending on where where it falls, then some people can say, well, then you know what, this one law trumps the other law, or something like that. So you're tug of warring with this energy. Um, you should hold your ground, and if you have a victory when it comes to these scenarios you're going to be facing, where then you can build on that victory as well. But a lot of the written laws have to be rewritten or completely tossed and restarted again, right? We know that. We know that very well. If you're waiting for a catalyst, if you're waiting for a if you're waiting for something to happen, like a very big event, then I think don't. I think you should take those very small wins and compound them, turn them into even bigger wins, and then start breaking down or at least documenting what you're seeing, and how is it that it doesn't affect positively the whole population, right? For good and for bad people, right? Either way, it could hurt them negatively no matter what side you're on. If you come from that angle, I think you'll I think you'll succeed, right? And you want me to put a time frame on it, but I can't, because uh, it could go. I have to say both ways, because it'll be very bad if I go in one direction. So I'm gonna say both ways. Okay. Um, it could be a short period of time or it could be a long period of time. Just try not to think about it too much. Don't think about it. You take that first step, right? I, then take the second step and keep going. If you feel that you're onto something, then feel free to, override or overrule anything that's in your way to prove a point, to get to the big picture of things, and just take small wins. Take them, and just let it that simmer when you have a win. Let the win simmer. Let it feel good about it. Then you could build the confidence to move on to the other things so you can achieve. Uh, document it, document it, document it. Put it on paper. Put it down. You write something down, you probably will never forget it, and you can come back to it. Just don't let all that stuff just stay in your head like that. Uh, you're taking up the whole QA. But I think that's good enough for now. All right, so do that for me. Um, I think you'll be okay. You look great. You're healthy. You are at you're about a 65% um, energy. Your energy is at 65%. Your performance level of how well you can execute an action based on the information that you have is at 65% right now. And that's sufficient based on the amount of people that are behind you because not everybody's at a 65 percentile. I'm giving you a 65 percentile as a whole. A low percentile would be 40, really low, and then just not even good enough is 45. So I expect you to be anywhere between 47 and up. Um, so measuring your own fatigue level wouldn't make a difference because then you might have to. You're looking at yourself and then maybe having to be someone else's shoulder to lean on because maybe they're not all there. But yeah, you stick for 47. That's not a bad number as a bare minimum. Well, you won't know if you're at that low, really. But you're now at 65, and I mean, just when you go and you have a good night's sleep, that helps. If you come across a scenario where you're just completely out of the loop and you don't know what's going on, you could do two things. You can stress yourself by trying to work out mentally what could be going on. Don't You can go textbook and then you can just try and figure out what's going on. But there are some things that are even above my head that I care enough to know that good people are taking care of the problem and I don't have to think twice or double check unless it completely this guy, I tell you, man. I'm gonna leave him locked in next time. Yeah, so don't worry about it. You'll be fine. Um, you got some. You got a good team behind you. Um, and that's it. I think your whole team could pull its weight. I'm only giving you a scenario where you might overexhaust yourself, overextend your limit. Then you might see yourself going textbook, going too deep into it. Sit back and relax, let it roll. If somebody needs to reach out to you over a certain situation, then you're going to be addressed or reached out to because it's going to pertain to you. But if it doesn't pertain to you, um, then you just don't worry about it too much. Just roll with it, go with it. All right, so that was a very interesting Q&A, guys. I am expecting more of it. It's going to be important to go on with these because in a way it just helps to have an idea of where you're going. And a lot of the tarot cards that I read were right on, you know. And then I kept looking and looking and looking and looking, and no other reading that I had then made a difference. But that very first one, you know, when you go and you try the very first time and you're calm and you're relaxed and you're um, in the moment, you're feeling like this is what I have to do. Um, Go for it. You know, get it on paper, write it down, let it interpret itself over you, and release yourself to the scenario and the situation because that's always going to work out, right? So, um, hope you guys have a great evening. I am going to post these videos. I'm going to try and edit, but I'm just really just probably just going to push these out because my cat kept walking across the keyboard and stopping the video each and every time. So that's how it has to be. All right? So you guys enjoy the rest of your evening and I'll see you again. I'll see you when this gets posted. You have a good rest of your night, guys.